The purpose of this production is not to make any political statements. The purpose of this is to give the simple truth to the American people about what happened April 19th, 1995. The opinions and the conclusions of the witnesses are simply their own. They don't necessarily represent mine or anyone else involved in this production.
Oklahoma City is probably much like the town you live in. We're not really famous for anything. We're just people like you and your neighbors. But all that changed at 9:02 a.m. on April 19th, 1995. Now we're famous. We're famous for the deadliest terror attack in United States history.
Just as people tend to remember major historic events, Oklahomans will always remember where they were the morning of April 19th, 1995. I was in my office that morning, which is about 5 miles from downtown Oklahoma City. And just like most residents of Oklahoma City, I felt and heard the explosions at the Murrah Federal Building. In the days and weeks following that tragic morning, I began to have serious questions about the government's official explanation. For example, the reported size of the bomb was upgraded several times. Also, the many reports of explosive devices found in the building was continuously discounted. Another question was about John Doe number 2 and how the importance and status of John Doe number 2 was continuously changed throughout the course of the investigation. Another reason for my questioning was the analysis done by General Benton Parton and also many other experts in areas such as chemistry, explosives, seismology, and demolition. At that point, I began to consider how I could get the facts of this case to the American people. My first course of action was to call on the Speaker of the Oklahoma House of Representatives to form a special committee. The purpose of that committee would be to act as an oversight committee in a function much like the many checks and balances that we have at various levels of our government. Unfortunately, that request was denied by the Speaker, and he and the governor both were very critical of that request, saying that people need to have more faith and trust in their federal government and its agencies. Frankly, that goes against what I believe, and I began looking into alternative methods of communication. In this production and documentary, what we do is offer you eyewitnesses and experts and let you draw your own conclusion about what really took place in Oklahoma City on April the 19th.
The rescue workers found two kinds of people at the Alfred P. Murrah building on April 19th. They were survivors and recoveries.
This was the area that on the first day we called the cave. Everything ended up with nicknames in different parts of the structure. Some of it's depending upon what we found at the time when we first crawled in with the people that were surviving, calling for help versus the ones who weren't able to and deceased. Anyway, we called this area the cave. There was rubble where this is at. That was the only access. And this goes back quite a ways. I'll take you around to the other side. You can get only an idea. And what we're standing in right now is about 3 foot of rubble. So you're looking in, you're crawling downhill to go underneath these beams. Men were turning on their backs, taking off their helmets, sliding in, and putting all their gear back on, and then moving rocks and just crawling. A lot of recoveries were taken out here, about 18 behind this wall. And many of them were literally impaled together. Now, just the other side of this, down, we had 2 survivors the first day. Halfway through, myself and the people from a mutual aid company was behind the rubble, and the 2 survivors here, we had the first bomb scare. Myself and some of the people from mutual aid was back in there, and then we had to leave the area. They asked us not to leave them, and it was real trying on most of the men that were in this area. We had 3 survivors, and all 3 begged you not to leave. You prayed. and you just have to not see you be back.
Tony and Earl Garrett are two Oklahomans directly affected by April 19, 1995. On that day, along with many other citizens, Tony, a registered nurse, volunteered to assist the victims at the Murrah Federal Building. Tony was assigned to ID tag those victims who were already dead. Tony tagged over 120 victims.
One baby bother in particular, it had been blown around a pole, and she had to literally remove it from the pole to get it out of the way. And it still bothers her. She acts like she's callous, but she's not. She just blocks a lot of it out.
But something that really upsets me is knowing that the day before, or maybe minutes before that bombing, were the bodies of the babies and the children, and makeshift morgue was once a playground where those children used to play.
Government officials claimed that there was only one bomb, yet the building was evacuated several times in the first few hours.
There was a period when we were bringing the bodies to the playground, and that's when we had noticed that we needed to evacuate the building because there was another bomb. They had found another bomb. There was at least 4 other people that had told me that there was a bomb inside the building.
And these 4 other people, were they part of the rescue effort?
Yes.
All
and there was a couple of people that had actually seen them remove the bomb when the bomb squad had come down to the Murrah building.
Would you describe what they said that this particular bomb looked like?
They really didn't go into detail. I didn't ask for details because I wouldn't have known what they meant.
Did you say something to me on the initial interview that these people said that there was a timer, a timing device or something?
There was a timing device on one of the bomb that they had secured earlier that morning that had been set to go off 10 minutes after the bombs had gone off that morning, which they assumed that the mechanism of the bomb malfunctioned because of the blast. So that's what caused that bomb not to explode.
I see. Did this person tell you it was definitely an active bomb, or did any of these people tell you it was actually definitely an active bomb?
Yes.
They did. Okay. So then they defused the bomb? Is that basically what they did? I guess the bomb squad did that.
The bomb squad took it off.
Okay.
Glenn Wilburn is one of the many Oklahomans who lost family to the tragedy. Glenn's 2 infant grandsons were killed by the blast.
I've got a lot of questions about it. I also have questions about explosives in the building. I have talked to an investigator that has taped interviews with civilian employees that worked in the building almost immediately after the blast. And they tell explosives that ATF had stored in that building and that were carried out by ATF several times in the days following the explosion. In fact, we've been told that the first bomb scare was not in fact a bomb scare. It was designed that way to get the civilians back and all personnel back, and ATF went in there to get their files and also to take explosives out that they'd illegally stored in their munitions on the ninth floor. Once again, if that's true, we've got a serious problem there because we have munitions, explosives, not munitions, but explosives being stored illegally in a public federal building.
J.D. Cash, an investigative reporter from southeastern Oklahoma, has interviewed thoroughly over 100 witnesses, victims, and rescue workers.
Following that initial interview with Dr. Brown back on the 1st of May, I talked to Dick Miller, who's the assistant fire marshal for the Oklahoma City Fire Marshal's office. And he, in very clear terms, readily admitted that there were explosives removed from the Murrah building immediately after the disaster on the very same morning. And it was those explosions, it was those devices that were removed from the Murrah building which caused the evacuation of the rescue workers on at least 3 different occasions. And it's important for people to understand that while they are in the process